Hey everyone! I've been really enjoying being with you each evening this week to read this awesome book, The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls, Book 3, The Great Escape. Now, if you've missed any of the videos, go ahead and watch those ones before this one because tonight we are picking up in Chapter 9 called The Great Sphinx. As a reminder, Mary and Peter are currently running away from the captain. Let's see if they get away. Chapter 9, The Great Sphinx. "Guards!" shouted the captain. "Get them!" The royal guards came running from all over the palace, swords drawn. "Run!" said Princess Shafara. Mary and Peter darted out the palace doors and toward the river. "Michael!" shouted Peter. "We could use a little help here!" A flash of light flew over their heads. Bang! The palace doors slammed shut. Peter looked back. Michael was standing with his wings spread wide, holding the doors closed. "Get to the desert," said Michael. "I'll take care of the guards." Peter grabbed the bag from Hank, and they ran beside the Nile River to the desert. Peter stopped and bent over to catch his breath. "I think we're safe now," he said. Mary sat under a palm tree, panting. "Let's get the scroll out and see why it was shaking." The scroll shook again. Peter unrolled it, and 3 of the hieroglyphic symbols glowed and transformed into the words, "and," "will," and "you." Mary read, "God is powerful and will blank you blank." "We only have 2 words left," said Peter. "What do we do now?" "I guess we wait for Michael," said Mary. The sun set behind the pyramids. Peter and Mary drifted off to sleep under the star-filled desert sky. The rising sun woke Peter. He was relieved that the guards hadn't found them. Peter shook Mary's shoulder. "I'm tired of waiting," he said. "Let's explore." Mary agreed. They climbed to the top of a sand dune. Mary took the binoculars out of the bag and looked across the desert. "There's the Great Sphinx," said Mary. "We have to go see it." They walked and walked. It was farther away than it looked. Suddenly, thick, dark clouds filled the sky. A few raindrops landed on Peter's head, and lightning struck the desert sand. Then it started raining hard. "I hope we don't have another flood," said Peter. Hank ran ahead. Peter and Mary walked faster toward the Great Sphinx. Thud! Something hit the sand next to Peter. He picked up a ball of ice the size of a golf ball. Thud, thud. More slammed into the sand. Now they were the size of baseballs. "It's hail! Run!" shouted Mary. They dashed and darted and dodged the hail. They ran between the paws of the Great Sphinx and dove into the entrance. The hail pounded against the Sphinx, but they were safe. "That was close," said Peter. "I guess Pharaoh still won't let them go," said Mary. "It looks like we're stuck here," said Peter. "That's okay. Let's explore," said Mary. Peter took out the flashlight and they headed deep into the Sphinx. Peter saw some light coming from a room at the end of the hallway. Hank barked and ran into the room. Peter and Mary ran in after him. "Wow," said Mary. The large room glowed with flickering candles. Shelves filled with scrolls lined the walls. "This must be an ancient library," said Mary. Hank growled at something in the corner. Peter shined his flashlight toward it. 2 glowing yellow eyes appeared in the shadows. The Black Panther crept into the light. "Not you again," said Peter. Hank growled at the big cat. Peter and Mary stood back to back in the middle of the library as the Black Panther snarled and crept in a circle around them. "Midnight, come here," said a deep voice from a shadowy corner. Peter turned his light that way. This time, the great magician's eyes glittered back at him. "Well, look who decided to visit my little library," said the great magician. The Black Panther sauntered over and curled up at his feet. "I believe you've already met Midnight," said the great magician. "How do you know?" said Mary. "I know many things." The great magician walked over to a shelf and grabbed a scroll. "This scroll contains many secrets. Would you like to read it?" "No, thanks," said Peter. He kept his eyes on the panther. "How about you, Mary?" said the great magician. Mary started to reach for the scroll. She loved secrets. Peter grabbed her arm. "I think we should be going now," he said. "It sounds like the rain stopped." "You just got here," said the great magician. "Stay, I have much to teach you." He pointed, and Midnight ran to block the doorway. The panther showed its fangs and roared. "I guess we can stay a little longer," said Peter nervously. "I will make a deal with you," said the great magician. "I will let you go if you trade my scroll for the scroll in your bag." "How did you know I had a scroll?" said Peter. He slowly pulled the scroll out of the bag and looked at it. "I know a lot about you three," said the great magician. "We've met before." "When?" said Mary. "A long time ago," said the great magician. "We were in a garden." He pointed his snake-shaped staff at Mary. "You kicked me, and there was a great flood that you escaped somehow." "We should have known it was you, Satan," said Mary. Hank stepped in front of Mary and growled. "Give me that scroll," said the great magician. Peter gripped the scroll tightly. "You'll never get it." "Do you children think you can stop my plan to crush God's people?" said the great magician. "No," said Peter, "but God can." The great magician laughed. "Where is God?" he said. "You're all alone." He swung his staff and knocked the scroll out of Peter's grip. Midnight crouched low, ready to jump at them. "We aren't alone," said Peter. "God is always with us." Suddenly, a rushing wind blew through the room, extinguishing the candles. A ball of light flew into the room and slammed into Midnight. The panther slid across the floor and knocked over a shelf. Hundreds of scrolls rolled across the floor. "Oh no," said Mary. "Which one is ours?" The ball of light transformed into Michael. "It's too late," said the great magician. "Pharaoh will never let God's people go." "It's never too late for God," said Michael. He drew his flaming sword and swung. Peter and Mary got on their hands and knees and searched for the scroll. "I can't find it," said Mary. Peter looked over his shoulder. He saw a blur of black fur, fangs, purple, and a light. Candles, stands, and shelves crashed to the floor. "More scrolls," said Mary. "We're never going to find it." Hank dug through the scrolls and barked. Peter ran across the library, ducking under Michael's swinging sword. He found Hank with a scroll in his mouth. It had the red wax seal. "Hank found it!" shouted Peter. Everyone froze. "Run!" shouted Michael. "I will find you." "Unless I find them first," said the great magician. Chapter 10. A City in the Sun. Peter, Mary, and Hank ran out of the Great Sphinx and didn't look back. Breathing hard, Mary motioned to Peter to stop under a palm tree. "I hope Michael is okay, she said. "I'm sure he's fine," said Peter. "He is the leader of God's angel army." "What do we do now?" said Mary. "We wait for Michael to find us," said Peter. They waited and waited, but he didn't come. The sun set behind the pyramids, and Peter and Mary fell asleep under a palm tree. Peter woke to the bright sun and a strong wind blowing in from the east. Hank ran to the top of a sand dune and barked. Peter climbed to the top too. "Mary, look!" "What is it?" said Mary. "I don't know," said Peter. "It looks like the sand is moving this way." Mary looked through the binoculars. "That's not sand," she said. "It's bugs. It's locusts." A swarm of locusts moved closer. "Hurry," said Mary. "Give me a boost." Mary scrambled up the tree, and Peter lifted Hank up to her. The buzzing and chirping of the locusts grew louder. "Hurry," said Mary. "They're almost here." Peter grabbed onto the tree and climbed to the top. The locusts covered the desert below. Mary ducked and shrieked, "Help!" Michael swooped over their heads. He flapped his mighty wings and cleared a spot in the sand. "Jump!" shouted Michael. They jumped out of the tree. "Duck!" said Michael. He covered them with his wings. Peter heard the locusts marching over them as they huddled under Michael's wings. The buzzing finally stopped, and Michael stood up. Peter looked at what was left of the tree. "Those were some hungry bugs," he said. "You need to go to Goshen," said Michael. "You will be safe there." "Where's Goshen?" said Mary. "Didn't you pack a map?" said Peter. Mary unrolled the map. "It's in Egypt, on the other side of the pyramids from Pharaoh's palace." "You better get going," said Michael. "It's not safe here. I have to find the great magician." Michael spread his wings and was gone. "Let's go," Peter said. Mary studied the map and looked out through the binoculars. "Follow me." They walked and walked across the dry desert. "Are you sure we're not lost?" said Peter. Mary looked at the map again. "I'm sure," she pointed. "Look, pyramids." A strong wind blew from the west. Peter heard the buzzing sound again. "The locusts are coming back." Peter, Mary, and Hank ran to the pyramids. The wind blew harder and the buzzing grew louder. They found a small entrance and wriggled in. The swarm of locusts flew past them. Darkness filled the pyramid. "It seems a little early for it to get so dark," said Peter. "I guess we will have to stay here tonight," said Mary. What do you think the locusts and the darkness are all about? Peter stretched and rubbed his eyes. It should have been morning, but it was completely dark outside. "Mary! Hank! Where are you?" "I'm right here," said Mary. She reached out and touched his shoulder. "Am I blind?" said Peter. "No," said Mary. "It's just really dark." "The darkness is so thick I can almost feel it," said Peter. "How will we find our way to Goshen?" "Try your flashlight," said Mary. Peter turned on the flashlight, but it didn't help much. They stumbled out of the pyramid into the darkness. Peter was glad there weren't many things to trip over in the desert. They walked and walked and walked. "How long have we been walking?" asked Peter. "A long time," said Mary. "I don't even know where we are." Hank barked, and Peter saw a small light appear in the distance. "I hope it's not the great magician." The light grew brighter. It was Michael's flaming sword. "There you are," said Michael. "It was hard to find you in this darkness." Mary shielded her eyes from the bright sword. "I think we got lost." "I don't even know what day it is," said Peter. He pulled out the scroll and unrolled it. "How many days do we have left to solve the scroll?" Michael counted on his fingers. "This is your 11th day in Egypt. You have today and 3 more days." "We only have 2 words left," said Peter. "I think we can do it." Mary looked at the map. "How are we going to find Goshen?" "Follow me," said Michael. Michael's flaming sword led the way up a tall sand dune. When they reached the top, they saw a city bathed in daylight. Michael spread his arms. "Welcome to Goshen." "Wow," said Peter. "God even protects his people from the darkness." "You'll be safe here," said Michael. "Where do we go?" said Mary. "When you enter the gate, take your first right turn," said Michael. "Then go to the 3rd house on the right." "What do we say?" "Tell them God sent you," said Michael. He spread his wings and flew off into the darkness. They found the house and knocked on the door. An older lady with a kind face opened the door. "Hello, God sent us," said Mary. "Oh dear," said the lady. "Come in." "Thank you," said Peter. "Let me tell my husband you are here," she said. "Moses, we have visitors." Wow, I think we just met Moses, as in the Moses that went to Pharaoh with Aaron, and the Moses that we learned about last year, who brought the 10 Commandments down Mount Sinai, met with God face to face, and his face was shining. He did all kinds of things, right? He met with his father-in-law Jethro. We talked about that last year. I think we just met that Moses that is where we're going to leave off tonight. Tomorrow we're going to pick up in chapter 11, and I think we're going to finish the book tomorrow night. So I cannot wait to see you here at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. See you then, everybody.